This story is titled, During Our Wedding Ceremony, Bride's Mother announced, "He's not good enough for my daughter. What a loser," while my fiancé stayed silent. I got immediate revenge, and by dawn next day, my phone was flooded with their desperate calls. "Hey everyone, I need to get something off my chest after what happened this morning. I'm Marcus Thompson, 29 years old, and what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life turned into the beginning of a nightmare, all thanks to my mother-in-law. Last Friday, I married the love of my life, Claire. We kept the wedding modest but nice, renting a venue in Sacramento where around 90 of our closest friends and family gathered to celebrate with us. Claire looked absolutely stunning in her wedding dress. I couldn't take my eyes off her. Everything was perfect. The ceremony went smoothly, the food was delicious, and our guests seemed to be having a great time. That is, until the wedding toast started. Some background information might be helpful here. I own my own custom motorcycle shop that I built from nothing over the last 6 years. It's not the fanciest profession in the world, but it's mine, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished. Claire works as a research coordinator at the local hospital. We're not exactly rolling in money, but we live comfortably and have never complained about our financial situation. My mother-in-law Victoria, however, has always looked down on me. From the moment Claire first introduced us, she made it abundantly clear that she thought I wasn't good enough for her daughter. She especially hates that I work with motorcycles and didn't go to university like Claire did. I've tried my best to win her over these past 3 years, but nothing I do seems to meet her standards. During the reception, after my best friend Diego finished his heartwarming toast, Victoria suddenly grabbed the microphone. She had been drinking expensive wine all evening, and I could tell by the look on her face that whatever she was about to say wasn't going to be good. Claire must have sensed it too because she squeezed my hand under the table so hard her knuckles turned white. "I'd like to say something about our happy couple," Victoria announced, her voice dripping with sarcasm that sent a chill down my spine. The entire room went dead quiet, and I swear you could have heard a pin drop. "You know, when Claire first brought Marcus home, I thought it was just a phase," she continued, emphasizing each word as if explaining something to a child. "I mean, really? A motorcycle mechanic?" She let out a condescending laugh that echoed through the silent room. "But here we are 3 years later, and my daughter is actually marrying him." People started shifting uncomfortably in their seats. I glanced over at Claire's sister Lily, who looked absolutely mortified by what was happening. I tried to remain calm, but I could feel my jaw clenching tighter with each passing second. "This poor boy thinks he can provide for my daughter. Pathetic!" Victoria's voice got louder as her confidence grew from the shocked silence. Claire had such potential. She could have married someone successful, someone with a real career. Instead, she's settling for a grease monkey who probably can't even afford a house without a mortgage. I stayed as calm as possible, though I could feel my blood beginning to boil. Before I could respond, Claire stood up so fast that her chair fell backward with a loud crash. "How dare you!" Claire shouted, her face flushed with anger. "Marcus built his business from nothing. He owns his shop outright, and we just bought our house with the money he saved. He works harder than anyone I know, including you, Mom. All you do is sell overpriced houses and drink wine at lunch." The room erupted into chaos. Claire's dad, Thomas, who's been divorced from Victoria for years, started slow clapping from his table. "Classic Victoria," he muttered, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Always making everything about status." But Victoria wasn't done yet. "Oh, please, his little bike shop," Victoria continued with a dismissive wave of her hand. "I drove past it yesterday. Barely any motorcycles there. Probably because people in town know better than to trust their vehicles to someone who learned from YouTube videos instead of proper schooling." As Victoria continued her tirade, I noticed something strange happening around the room. Several guests were looking at their phones and whispering to each other with concerned expressions. Diego caught my eye from across the table and silently mouthed, "Check your phone," while gesturing subtly toward his pocket. I discreetly pulled out my phone under the table and was shocked to see I had 13 missed calls, all from different numbers, all within the last hour. A sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I began to understand what might be happening. "You want to talk about my business, Victoria?" I stood up slowly, keeping my voice steady despite the anger coursing through me. "Funny you should mention it being empty yesterday. Know why? Because we were closed for my wedding weekend." I paused, letting my words sink in before continuing. "But since you brought it up, how many of my customers have you been talking to? Because suddenly they're all calling me about concerns they've supposedly heard about my work." Victoria's face went white as paper. And Brittany, her best friend and real estate partner, suddenly found her dinner plate extremely interesting. Claire was now scrolling through her phone, her face getting redder by the second. "Mom, why are there posts in the neighborhood Facebook group questioning Marcus's certification?" Claire's voice was dangerously quiet. "Posts from your account?" I was just trying to protect you," Victoria stammered, her previous confidence evaporating. "He's going to drag you down to his level, living paycheck to paycheck, never advancing in life." Lily stood up next, surprising everyone since she's usually the peacekeeper in the family. "Mom, stop. Everyone knows Marcus's shop is the most trusted in town. You're just mad because he refused to undervalue his house when you tried to be our realtor. I noticed our wedding photographer was capturing all of this drama." "Good. I wanted evidence of what was happening." "Victoria," I said calmly, making sure to control my tone. "I've stayed quiet about a lot of things out of respect for Claire, but you just showed everyone exactly who you are. And now I don't feel the need to stay quiet anymore." Claire's cousin started recording on his phone, which Victoria immediately noticed. She shrieked, "Don't you dare film me! This is a private family matter." "Private?" I couldn't help but laugh at her words. "Like those public Facebook posts you made about my business? Or the calls you've been making to my clients? You've made this very public, Victoria. And now you get to deal with the consequences." Victoria stormed out of the reception after that, followed by a very apologetic Brittany who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Despite the drama, the rest of the night was actually amazing. People kept coming up to express their support and share their own Victoria stories. Claire's dad gave an impromptu toast about how proud he was to have me as a son-in-law, which meant more to me than I could express. But this morning, my phone exploded with messages, and I discovered the full extent of Victoria's betrayal. It turns out she's been busy for weeks, systematically contacting my clients with fabricated concerns about my business. She even tried to get my shop's certification reviewed by making false complaints to the licensing board. The thing is, she has no idea what she's started. I've built my reputation through hard work and honesty over the past 6 years. She built hers through fake smiles and social climbing. Let's see which one lasts longer. After seeing those Facebook posts, Claire is fully on board with whatever I decide to do. "Destroy her, babe. I'll help," she told me this morning, her eyes filled with a determination I've never seen before. I need to return some calls and start documenting everything that's happened. Victoria wants to play games with my livelihood? Game on. Thanks for all the support on my last post. A lot has happened since the wedding disaster, and you guys were right. It wasn't just about one nasty comment. What I've discovered in the past week makes my blood boil. Quick recap for anyone who missed it. My mother-in-law Victoria stood up at our wedding reception and basically called me a broke loser who couldn't provide for her daughter Claire. I stayed quiet then, but my phone blew up with calls afterward. Well, now I know why. Yesterday, I was at my office going through emails when Diego walked in looking uncomfortable. This was weird because this guy's usually the most laid-back person I know. He sat down across from me with a serious expression I rarely see on his face. "Bro, we need to talk about your mother-in-law," he said, fidgeting with his watch. My stomach immediately dropped. Nothing good ever starts with those words. Turns out Victoria's been going around town, telling everyone my business is failing. But that's not even the worst part. She's been actively contacting my clients, warning them about financial irregularities in my company. Diego heard it from his cousin, who was about to sign a significant contract with us but backed out at the last minute. I felt my hands shaking as I opened my laptop and started checking my recent cancellations. 5 major contracts, all pulled out within the last month. As I cross-referenced the information, a pattern emerged. All of them had dealt with Victoria's real estate agency for their properties at some point. That's when it clicked. She's been using her position as a real estate agent to sabotage me systematically. I called Claire immediately. She was at work but came straight to my office the moment I told her it was important. When I showed her the evidence of what her mother had been doing, she went dead quiet. Then she pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her texts with an intensity that was almost frightening. "Look at this," she said, turning her phone toward me. She showed me a group chat with her sister Lily, where Victoria had been telling the entire family that I was secretly in debt, that I'd begged her for money, which never happened, and that she was worried about Claire's future with me. Claire was furious. I've never seen her so angry. She immediately called her sister Lily on speakerphone, demanding to know what else Victoria had been saying behind our backs. Lily broke down and admitted everything. Victoria had been planning this for months. She'd been spreading rumors about my business at every family gathering, every real estate meeting, and every country club event she attended. She even told Lily's fiancé to reconsider his investment in my company, claiming I was on the verge of bankruptcy. After gathering all this information, we decided to confront Victoria at the weekly family dinner that evening. In retrospect, this was a big mistake. The moment we walked in, I could tell Victoria knew something was up. Her fake smile looked even more strained than usual, and her eyes kept darting between Claire and me. Claire didn't even wait for everyone to sit down. She pulled out her phone and started playing a voice recording Lily had sent her. Victoria talking trash about me to a potential client who had secretly recorded the conversation. Victoria's face transformed from a fake smile to unbridled rage in seconds. She started screaming about how she was protecting her daughter and how I was beneath their family. Her voice echoed through the dining room as she stood up, knocking over her wine glass in the process. Claire shouted back that Victoria was just jealous because her own business was struggling while mine was growing despite Victoria's interference. The accusation seemed to hit a nerve because Victoria suddenly went very still. That's when Victoria dropped the bomb. She claimed she'd been collecting evidence of my shady business practices and threatened to expose me if we didn't end our marriage. The room fell silent as everyone processed the blatant blackmail attempt. I stood up slowly. The room went quiet, all eyes on me as I looked Victoria straight in the eyes. "You really want to play this game?" I asked calmly. "Because I promise you won't like how it ends." She sneered and said I was threatening her, playing the victim card immediately. Claire's dad, Thomas, who's usually super quiet at these gatherings, suddenly spoke up from his corner of the table. "Victoria, you're making the same mistakes you made with me. Stop it!" His voice was quiet, but carried a weight that made everyone pay attention. Victoria responded by throwing her wine glass at the wall and storming out of the house, leaving everyone in shocked silence. On the drive home, Claire was shaking with anger, gripping the dashboard so hard her knuckles turned white. "End this," she said finally. "End her whole career if you have to. I'm done with her games." I spent all night making calls, calling in favors, and gathering information. Turns out Victoria's reputation in the real estate world isn't as spotless as she pretends. Her partner Brittany was especially interested in our conversation. Seems like Victoria's been keeping some interesting secrets from her, too. This morning, I registered a new business. By next month, there's going to be a new real estate agency in town, with Brittany coming on board as my partner. We're going to take every client, every listing, and every contract that Victoria thinks is safely hers. The best part? It's all perfectly legal. She wanted to play business? Let's play. I know this might seem petty to some people, but when someone tries to destroy everything you've built, you don't just roll over. You hit back harder. Claire's blocked her mom on everything, and Lily's sending us all the dirt she has on Victoria's business practices. Even Thomas called to give me some interesting information about how Victoria operates. Those calls that blew up my phone after the wedding? Those were clients calling to warn me about what Victoria was saying. They're all coming back now, with signed statements about how she tried to interfere with our contracts. This is just the beginning. Victoria thinks she can bully us into submission. She has no idea what's coming. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't some elaborate scheme. It's just giving someone enough rope to hang themselves with their own actions. Want to know what happened next? Well, karma really is something else. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and watching Victoria's life unravel has been quite the experience. I promised Claire I wouldn't do anything illegal, and I haven't needed to. Victoria's been doing a fantastic job of destroying herself without much help from me. Remember how she stood up at our wedding and called me pathetic? Called me a poor boy who couldn't provide for her daughter? Well, guess who just lost their biggest client because they couldn't keep their mouth shut about other people's finances? It started small. Diego, who works in local advertising, mentioned something interesting during our weekly meetup. Victoria had been bad-mouthing me to anyone who would listen at the Chamber of Commerce meetings. She kept telling people I was living off her daughter's money and that my business was probably a front for something illegal. The irony? While she was running her mouth, I was quietly building relationships with the same people she was talking to. Several business owners approached me afterward to express their discomfort with her unprofessional behavior. Then, last weekend, Lily came over to our place. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. When she finally calmed down, she revealed something shocking. Victoria had been using Lily's social security number to open credit cards since Lily was 18. Lily only found out when she tried to get a car loan and was denied due to her terrible credit score. The loan officer showed her the report, which included several maxed-out credit cards she'd never opened. Claire was livid. We spent the entire weekend helping Lily file identity theft reports and begin the lengthy process of cleaning up her credit. Lily's staying with us now, as she couldn't bear to be around her mother after this discovery. Victoria's been blowing up everyone's phones, leaving increasingly desperate and angry voicemails, but no one is responding to her anymore. Here's where it gets even better. Brittany, Victoria's business partner of 15 years, came to my office yesterday looking nervous but determined. She'd finally decided to check their shared accounting books after our conversation and discovered Victoria had been skimming from their shared commissions for years. Not huge amounts that would be immediately noticeable, but enough to add up to a substantial sum over time. When Brittany finally examined their books thoroughly, she was furious and wanted advice about dissolving their partnership as cleanly as possible. I didn't have to do anything except listen and point her toward a good accountant who specializes in business breakups. The real estate community in our town isn't huge, and word spreads incredibly fast. 3 of their biggest listings have already jumped ship to other agents. Victoria doesn't know why yet, but she's been having screaming matches on her phone in public, creating quite the spectacle. Claire actually recorded one outside the grocery store where Victoria was yelling about betrayal and ungrateful children, completely oblivious to the customers staring at her. Claire's handling this situation better than I expected. When Victoria showed up at Claire's lab yesterday, screaming about how we were poisoning the family against her, Claire just calmly walked her to the parking lot and told her, "Mom, you're having a mental break. Get help or don't contact me again." Then she walked back inside, leaving Victoria sputtering in the parking lot. Thomas, Claire's dad, finally told us why he really left Victoria 8 years ago. Apparently, she'd been running the same credit card scam with his elderly mother's identity. He found out, forced her to pay it all back, and divorced her immediately. He never told the kids because he didn't want them to hate their mother. Well, that cat's out of the bag now, and Claire and Lily are processing a lot of new information about their childhood and their mother's character. I did make one active move in all this. I hired Brittany to handle the real estate side of my business expansion. She's actually fantastic at her job when she's not under Victoria's thumb. We're opening 3 new locations next month, which happens to be the same week Victoria's office lease is up for renewal. That wasn't planned, but the timing couldn't be more perfect. The Chamber of Commerce meeting last night was particularly interesting. Victoria stood up to make some announcement about local business ethics, probably aimed at me, but nobody was listening. People were literally turning their backs on her and having their own conversations while she tried to speak. She finally stormed out screaming about how we'd all regret this and how she made this town what it is. Several people laughed after she left, which only added to her humiliation. Lily showed me Victoria's Facebook posts from this morning. She's writing these long, rambling paragraphs about betrayal and how ungrateful children will learn their lesson. She's also been posting weird cryptic warnings about exposing the truth. Claire just laughs and says, "What truth? That she's terrible with money and worse with secrets? I won't lie. Watching her implode is satisfying after everything she tried to do to us. But the best part? I haven't had to lift a finger to make any of this happen. She's doing all the work herself. Every time she opens her mouth, she digs herself deeper into the hole she's created. People are finally seeing what we've dealt with for years. Claire's extended family is divided right now. Half of them are calling us daily, begging us to forgive and forget for the sake of family peace. The other half are coming forward with their own Victoria stories, revealing that she's been burning bridges way longer than we knew. There are cousins, aunts, and uncles who haven't spoken to Victoria in years due to similar manipulative behavior. The wildest part? She still thinks she can fix this by just bullying everyone into submission like she always has. Yesterday, she sent a mass text to the entire family, threatening to expose everyone's secrets at the next family gathering. Claire responded with a screenshot of Lily's credit report and asked, "You mean secrets like this, Mom?" Victoria hasn't responded since. Lily's been thriving since she moved in with us. She's already found a better job now that she doesn't have Victoria constantly telling her she's not good enough. She's also started therapy, which is helping her process years of Victoria's manipulation and emotional abuse. Watching her rediscover her confidence has been one of the few truly positive aspects of this whole mess. Brittany's taking over most of Victoria's old clients, and it turns out a lot of them were just waiting for an excuse to switch. One of them told Brittany they stayed with Victoria out of fear rather than loyalty. Apparently, she knew too much about their personal business and would make subtle threats about exposing their finances if they ever considered working with someone else. I know this all sounds incredibly dramatic, But this is what happens when someone spends decades building their life on lies and manipulation. It only takes one crack for everything to start falling apart. Claire's been going through old family photos, trying to preserve the good memories before everything imploded. She found one from our wedding, taken right before Victoria's little speech. Everyone looks so happy, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Claire says she wants to frame it to remember the exact moment her mom lost control of everything. I'm not going to pretend I'm not enjoying this outcome. I am. But I'm also sad for Claire and Lily. They deserve a better mother than this. At least they have each other, and they're finally free from her manipulation. The family reunion is next month. Victoria is still insisting on hosting it, even though half the family has already said they won't come if she's there. Claire suggested we host it instead, and Lily's excited about the idea. It would be her first family event where she doesn't have to walk on eggshells around her mother. First, thank you all for the support on my previous posts. A lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and I'm still processing everything, but here it is. For those who missed the earlier parts of this saga, a quick recap. I'm Marcus, 29, married to Claire, 25. My mother-in-law Victoria humiliated me at our wedding, calling me pathetic and saying I couldn't provide for her daughter. Then she tried to sabotage my business by spreading rumors and contacting my clients. Well, karma finally caught up with her, and I helped it along. Remember how I mentioned opening a competing business? That was just the beginning. It turns out Victoria had been cutting corners with her real estate listings for years. She'd been photoshopping property photos, hiding major issues, and straight up lying to clients about property conditions. I knew this because 3 of her former clients came to me with horror stories about properties they'd purchased through her, detailing how the actual conditions differed dramatically from what she had represented. So I did what any pathetic son-in-law would do. I gave them my lawyer's number and helped them file formal complaints with the real estate board. But that was just the beginning of Victoria's problems. The real gold came from Brittany, Victoria's business partner. She showed up at my office last Thursday looking nervous and clutching a thick folder of documents. Turned out Victoria had been forging her signature on official documents and pocketing commission splits that should have been shared between them. Brittany had proof, lots of it. She was finally done covering for Victoria's schemes after years of looking the other way. I sat there listening to Brittany spill everything while secretly recording our conversation. Since we live in a one-party consent state, this was completely legal. The best part? Victoria had no idea her perfect little world was about to implode. She was still busy trying to sabotage my reputation while her own was crumbling beneath her. Lily called the next day in tears. She'd discovered that Victoria had been bad-mouthing me to every potential client in our area, telling them I was running a scam business and that they should stay away. Lily had screenshots of texts where Victoria literally told people not to work with me because I was under investigation, which I absolutely wasn't. That was the final straw. I compiled everything, the forged documents, the client complaints, the text screenshots, Brittany's statement, and emailed it all to every real estate agent in Victoria's network. I also CC'd the state licensing board for good measure. Then I waited. It took exactly 47 minutes for my phone to explode with calls and messages. Victoria burst into my office around noon, screaming about how I was trying to destroy her. The entire building could hear her tirade, but I just sat there smiling, remembering her words at my wedding. When she finally ran out of steam, I played the recording from my wedding speech. You know, the one where she called me pathetic and said I couldn't provide for her daughter. Quite the performance, Victoria, I said calmly. Almost as good as today's. She went pale. You set me up, she accused, her voice suddenly quiet. I leaned forward in my chair. No, Victoria, you did this to yourself. I just made sure everyone saw who you really are. That's when Claire walked in with perfect timing, as always. She'd brought lunch, acting surprised to see her mother there. Oh, Mom, I didn't expect to see you here, Claire said with exaggerated innocence. Having a nice chat with my pathetic husband? Victoria turned to Claire, trying to play the victim as usual. Your husband is trying to ruin me! He's turned everyone against me! Claire just laughed, that same dismissive laugh Victoria had used at our wedding. No, Mom, you did that yourself. Every lie, every scheme, every nasty comment about Marcus, that was all you. We just made sure the truth came out. Then Claire dropped the bomb that left Victoria speechless. By the way, Dad called. He saw the email. Says this explains why client complaints kept disappearing when he was still your business partner. He's filing an amended divorce settlement. Victoria collapsed into a chair, all the fight draining out of her. You can't do this to me. she whispered. I'm your mother. Watch me, Claire replied coldly. You should have thought about that before trying to ruin my marriage. The fallout has been spectacular. The licensing board launched an investigation into Victoria's business practices. Her reputation in the community is in shambles. Her business clients are fleeing in droves. Her perfect image as a successful businesswoman has been shattered beyond repair. But the best part came when Lily finally stood up to her too. She told Victoria she was moving in with us while she finishes college. Victoria lost it, screaming about family loyalty as if she knew the meaning of the word. Lily just calmly said, Yeah, Mom. Family loyalty? Like when you tried to destroy my sister's marriage? The look on Victoria's face was priceless. It's been 2 weeks since everything came to a head. Victoria's real estate license is suspended pending investigation. Her business partner, Brittany, took half their clients with her when she joined my new venture. The other half? They're coming to me too. Turns out being pathetic doesn't matter when you run an honest business and treat people with respect. Thomas called yesterday, laughing about the whole situation. I always knew someone would expose her eventually, he said. I just didn't think it would be my son-in-law. Good job, kid. Coming from him, that meant a lot. The icing on the cake? Victoria's precious country club friends got the email too, and suddenly they don't want anything to do with her. She's been asked to take a break from their weekly gatherings. Apparently, they don't want to associate with someone under investigation for fraud and identity theft. Her social standing, which she valued above all else, has crumbled overnight. Last night, Claire, Lily, and I celebrated with takeout and wine on our back porch. The atmosphere was relaxed and happy, something that rarely happened when Victoria was involved in our lives. Lily asked if we felt bad about what happened to Victoria. Claire looked thoughtfully at me, then at Lily. Mom made her choices, Claire said finally. She chose to be cruel, to lie, to hurt people. Now she's facing the consequences. That's not our fault. I couldn't have said it better myself. So here we are. My business is thriving, Claire's research is going great, and Lily is flourishing away from her mother's toxic influence. And Victoria? Well, she's learning that karma hits harder when you help it along. To everyone who said I should have confronted her at the wedding. This was better, much better. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a dramatic confrontation, but watching someone's carefully constructed facade crumble as a direct result of their own actions. I don't know what the future holds for our relationship with Victoria. Right now, Claire and Lily need space to process everything they've learned about their mother. If Victoria ever genuinely apologizes and shows real change, maybe there's a path forward. But I'm not holding my breath. In the meantime, we're focusing on building our lives and businesses on honesty and integrity, the exact opposite of Victoria's approach. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Not fancy cars or country club memberships, but being able to look yourself in the mirror and be proud of the person staring back at you. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this ordeal. It's been a wild ride, but we're coming out stronger on the other side.